It seems late in the day to be actually saying this. I thought this was already done.
It is quite late in the day. This is a deal that buyer agreed back in September 2016. So this has been in front of regulators for really quite a long time. Obviously, it was in front of regulators under the previous administration. So that potentially is one reason why Del Rahim, the new head of DOJ, is taking a closer look at this. But you're right. I mean, 18 months for a deal like this would be a typical timeline to see it from agreed to closure. Obviously, we haven't got there. And now with this new news that's come out today, you could be looking at another sort of 3 to 6 months before this has any shot at closing.
It's a $66 billion deal, a massive deal. Buyer has already agreed to sell certain businesses and is looking to sell also its vegetable seed business to BASF. What does this do now to those bits that it was divesting?
So it's already agreed to divest, I think it's about $7 billion worth of businesses, as you say, to BASF, in seeds, some agrochemical stuff. Those, I imagine, will still be part of whatever divestiture package they end up with, but that may be added to. Now, the question is, does that get added to in terms of does BASF just end up buying a bigger package of assets, or do they have a separate process to sell some new assets that they get forced to sell? Another question would be whether or not justice tries to push them into some kind of behavioral remedy, something that would not necessarily force them to sell assets, but would just force them to commit to doing certain things in the US or other markets that may affect the US.
Ed, does this stress that coming third is difficult? Because we've had the Dow DuPont merger, that was approved. ChemChina, Syngenta. Is being the third a bad thing, seemingly, or is each deal different when it comes to regulatory matters?
I think each deal is different. I mean, you do have to look at the whole industry in terms of consolidation and how that landscape now looks with, as you say, Dow DuPont and ChemChina, Syngenta. But both of those deals also took a long time, Mark, to get to closure. I think one interesting thing here is that, Del Rahim with AT&T Time Warner has shown a willingness to go after not just the horizontal bits of the integration in the merger, but also the vertical bits, the bits where they don't overlap, but somehow putting two disparate businesses together creates a new area of competition that they see as threatening. So he potentially is going to look at that here, and that could create some real problems for Monsanto, because I don't think that was something when this deal was agreed, as I say, back in September 2016, that they would have factored in.
I mean, the shares in Monsanto have sunk on the news. Buyers lower, Ed. I mean, is there a risk? Give me percentages. I know that's tough, that this actually doesn't happen.
Well, I can't give you exact percentages of risk, but what I can do is if you look at the merger arbitrage spread on this at the moment, it's now trading at between sort of 10 and 11%, which is a big spread. I mean, for a deal that, until this morning we thought was relatively close to being approved and closing, that's a very wide spread. And that tells us that the market thinks at this point there is a very reasonable probability that this thing doesn't get done, or at least if it does, it takes a long time.
And Ed, this is just another example of the DOJ shifting focus a little bit and really examining horizontal mergers, the supply chain part of things, places where you said there wasn't a competition before. So what will they find here? Yeah,
so Del Rahim is an interesting character. I mean, everyone thought Trump would be very, or any DOJ under Trump, rather, would be very pro-business. We'd see more of these kind of mergers being done, but actually it's gone the opposite way. He has shown, as I said, his willingness to look at mergers that traditionally, you would say, look, if there's some real horizontal stuff, you wouldn't like it, but vertical stuff, under normal administration should go through.